To crochet this border, you will require the blanket that you are working on, the yarn you're going to use for your border, an appropriately sized crochet hook, a pair of scissors to cut your ends, and a tapestry needle to weave them in. Let's get started. Start by creating a slip knot and inserting your hook. Next, you're going to attach your yarn to the very corner stitch of your blanket. So I prefer to do that with a slip stitch. You're then going to do a chain 1 and half double crochet into that same stitch. I then recommend marking that stitch so that you can find it again easily later. Next, we're going to place a half double crochet into each stitch along this edge. Now, as you can see, I am crocheting squares together, so come back and meet me when we reach this join to see how to get across. So as you can see, I have done a half double crochet into the top of every stitch along my first square. I now have to figure out how to get from one square to the next across this flat braid join. Now this part only applies if your blanket has consisted of multiple pieces being joined together. If it is all one large piece, just keep going until you reach the next corner. If you have a narrow join, such as a slip stitch join, you might find that you can skip straight from one square to the next. However, with this flat braid join, it is quite wide, and so I don't feel that I can do that. So all you need to do now is to play around with the number and type of stitches to place across this join to get to the other side. Your only aim is to keep the edge as straight and flat as possible. So I'm going to try placing 2 half double crochets into my chain 3 space. I'm then going to work the next couple of stitches for the next square so that I can then look back and decide if I like the way it's sitting. So I've done an extra couple of stitches. I lay it out flat, and actually I think it looks nice and straight, and equally the stitches look about the same size at the top. Therefore I'm just going to continue. So that's a half double crochet into every stitch at the top of the square, 2 half double crochets into the chain 3 space, and then continue with a half double crochet into each stitch. Continue repeating this pattern until you reach the very corner of the blanket. I will then show you what to do next. As you can see, we have now reached the marked corner stitch. So we're going to remove the stitch marker. To get around the corner, you're going to place a half double crochet into that corner stitch, chain 2, and then place another half double crochet into that same stitch. You're then going to use your stitch marker to mark that chain 2 space. Now we're going to work around the rest of our blanket to the other 3 sides in the same fashion. So that's a half double crochet into the top of each stitch, 2 half double crochets to get across the flat braid join, and a half double crochet, chain 2, half double crochet in every corner stitch. I shall meet you at the end of round 1. So now you have reached the marked stitch that you began round 1 with. You've worked into the stitch previous, so in order to make it match every other corner that you've got, you're going to do a half double crochet into the corner stitch, chain 2, and then slip stitch into the very top of that corner stitch. It's that one that you had marked. And exactly as before, stick your stitch marker through that chain 2 just so that it's easy to find for the next round. To begin round 2, you're simply going to chain 1, place a half double crochet back into that chain 2 space you've just created, mark that first stitch so that you can find it again later. Then you're going to do a half double crochet into each stitch, but instead of doing it through the V that you can see on the top, you're going to tip your work forwards and find this little bar at the back. So that is the 3rd loop. So half double crochet through the 3rd loop, and then you're going to do it again for every single stitch until you reach the corner of your blanket. I shall meet you there. So as you can hopefully see, I have done my 3rd loop half double crochets right up until that last half double crochet before the chain 2 space. I'm going to pop out my stitch marker. I'm going to do a half double crochet into the chain 2 space, chain 2, put another half double crochet into the chain 2 space. Once you have finished working your corner, you're simply going to go back to doing a half double crochet in the 3rd loop in every stitch until you reach the next corner. Work another corner, so half double crochet, chain 2, half double crochet into the chain 2 space, and keep doing that until you get back to the start of your round, at which point you'll have already had the half double crochet that started the round, so you'll simply do the half double crochet, chain 2 and slip stitch into the half double crochet that started round 2. Now that you have finished round 2, you are going to repeat round 2 until your border is as deep as you would like. Then fasten off and weave in your ends.